From USF Magazine. Did someone say doom loop? USF professors reflect on the state of San Francisco. So obviously everybody knows, and I guess at least they're acknowledging it now. But my name's Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm absolutely begging you.
I'm begging you, please. Come on, please.
Because the algorithm is a monster. It would be very helpful and it would cost you nothing to engage with the content. But if you want to be even more helpful and spend a little bit of money, go ahead and buy my book, New York City 2020, Gotham Unglued on Amazon.com. That link will be in the description. And as a former student at the University of San Francisco, and I don't know what in the world is going on there now, but back in my day, it wasn't that extreme. You know, San Francisco is often thought of one of the beacons of liberalism and where all this weirdo stuff comes from. But back in the day, it just wasn't that divided, right? I mean, you had bumper stickers of opposite political parties on the dorm room doors of students, and they were friends. They didn't hate each other. They played video games together and played poker together. There was a handful of young ladies way back then who went to celebrate, it was either an 18th or a 21st, or maybe it was a 20th, I don't know, to celebrate a birthday at a drag nightclub. And they literally told me, now of course I did not go, but they told me they closed the place down and basically the drag queens went into the locker room and put on an Adidas sweatsuit and walked out. Nobody was forcing your hand, but somewhere along the line that changed. Now, obviously I'm up on my high horse of, remember when, which of course we now know is the lowest form of conversation.
Remember when is the lowest form of conversation.
But this is from the newsletter that they sent to me, and they call me, I don't know, every couple months to try to get more money out of me. And it's like, dude, you already have all my money. Well, it's not my money, it's my parents' money, but you took it. On a Saturday morning, an hour before the doors open, the faithful form a line. I'm here for the bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, said Abby Chu. She drove from Union City 30 miles away. Something savory, maybe a mushroom galette. Okay, obviously they're going to paint a rosy picture. I don't know what this has to do with the doom loop. It goes on. Anything they have left is what I want, said Jawara Allen. He's from Potrero Hill, 3 miles away. From the front of Butter and Crumble Bakery at the edge of North Beach, it's hard to tell that San Francisco is dying. Doubt it, right? I guess I'm too deep in, but you can see from any angle, no matter how you slice it, you can tell it is circling the drain right now. You know the story. It made news across the nation when Rona struck the city in March 2020. Offices closed 3 years later. Thousands of workers who left the city to work from home during the pandemic hadn't returned. Offices remained nearly empty. Leases lapsed. Transit agencies suffered for lack of riders. Stores and restaurants failed. The Tenderloin neighborhood became a homeless encampment. Downtown became a ghost town. Tax revenues failed. Tourists stayed away. Hotels folded. That's all true. But I guess they don't say it here, but they constantly are trying to blame it on Rona when it wasn't really Rona. It was obviously the heavy-handed overreach of the political regime. The story of a doomed San Francisco captured the nation's imagination and held it for more than a year. Today, while a few say the city is struggling, others see San Francisco rising. I don't know about that. I don't know if you can make that argument. You can just say it and hope people believe it, because that's what they're used to. But you can't back it up with any facts or statistics, right? London Breed wants to say, overdoses are going down, right? They hit an all-time high. The highest amount of ODs in history was in 2023. Then it came down a little bit, and they take the credit like they're winning. And we all remember the clip of the news report saying that, ODs are actually down, which coincide with an uptick of law enforcement officers on the street. But then they say, well, but it's too early to draw any correlation. It's like you put more officers on the street exactly to combat this problem, and then I guess it starts to work, and you say, well, we're not really sure why it went down.
2023 set a grim benchmark for deadly overdoses in San Francisco. In all, the city tallied 806 overdose deaths over the course of the year.
It's been a tragic year for overdoses because more people have died this year than ever before.
Well, the city set that all-time high benchmark for deaths. As the year drew to a close, the number of overdose deaths began trending downward. 84 deaths in January, 88 in August. By December, that number had dropped to 52 overdose deaths. On social media, Mayor London Breed noted the record number of deadly overdoses. In a series of posts, she said the city must continue to offer treatment programs and that, quote, "We are also enforcing drug laws to shut down open-air drug markets." The downward trend roughly coincides with the increased federal, state, and local law enforcement crackdown in the city. City officials say it's too early to attribute the trend to increased enforcement.
Right? They're going to do anything to give the cops zero credit. Right? We're going to do community ambassadors and all that. It's complete nonsense. San Francisco is definitely not in a doom loop, says Billy Riggs, professor of public administration at USF. San Francisco is exiting a down cycle and entering an innovation cycle. Yeah, maybe. I highly doubt it, though. And I've said for a long time now that if they did everything right yesterday, it would still take a decade to clean up. Riggs is trained as a city planner. He's seen his share of cycles. As he speaks, he stands outside Good Luck Dim Sum on Clement Street in the Richmond district, the neighborhood that is home to USF and was named last fall by Time Out magazine as one of the 40 coolest in the world. And I remember, I'm surprised that dim sum place is still open. I mean, it was dirt cheap. It's probably still cheaper in comparison to the rest of San Francisco restaurants, but you could go there with like $6 and get a full box of dim sum. It was absolutely delicious. I still think about it to this day. There's several other food spots around the country that I associate heavily with where they were and what I was doing at the time, but I digress. He points to the west, toward the ocean, and then to the east, toward downtown. In both directions, the streets, shops, and markets teem with people. In some ways, Riggs says the media is to blame for perpetuating the idea of a doom loop. And the media is to blame for a lot, but they are not the cause of the doom loop. That is obviously the political regime who are gaining something from this demise. If you're a journalist and you say that the most beautiful city on the planet is turning into the zombie apocalypse, you've got a great story on your hands, Riggs said. But it's not a story. It's literally not. I mean, the Chronicle, obviously the Chronicle, this is weird because the media cannot be trusted, obviously. But I would almost say that the media is doing them a solid and not fully reporting this stuff. You have to look at real life independent reporters to get the story or go there yourself, which I can't recommend, right? Ask Adam Schiff about that. Doom loop is catchy. It makes a great headline, says Tim Redman, instructor of media studies at USF and former executive editor of the San Francisco Bay Guardian. Doom, disasters, crime, violence. The media loves all of that, partly because viewers and readers love hearing about disasters, but also because disasters are easy to write about. Someone died on the sidewalk, or someone robbed a Walgreens in broad daylight. Yeah, okay, so you can say they're exaggerating and they're putting it out in the media too much, but I'd venture to say it's not happening all that often other places, except for, of course, New York City, right? There's crime everywhere, but at this level, I just don't think that's happening. I could be wrong, and trust me, I search. Loads of local media outlets, right? The mainstream media seeing all that stuff. But it's just not happening at this level in other places. San Francisco is about boom and bust, wealth and poverty, collapse and recovery. I mean, the city's official flag has a phoenix on it. San Francisco is an idea as much as it is a place, Redman says. And just for the record, I actually know Redman. This is crazy, but he worked at my high school and now works at the college I went to, but I knew him from high school. Absolutely crazy. It's a screen onto which people project their dreams and their nightmares. It's the land of steep hills, sourdough bread, the summer of love and possibility. It's also the land of high rents, mass layoffs, open-air drug deals, and people living on the streets. That's the nature of San Francisco, says Brian Comey Dempster, poet and professor of rhetoric at USF. San Francisco is about boom and bust. Yeah, we read that. San Francisco rises, says Dempster. It rose after the fires of 1849 and 1850, after the earthquake of 1906, after the earthquake in 1989, after the dot-com bust in 2021. But is San Francisco rising now? Fox News says no. And again, you don't have to look to Fox News to get the truth. I mean, they are better than most other media outlets, I believe. But if you actually live through this, same thing with the Transformers in Brooklyn, right? Before I was politically engaged at all, I worked with a restaurant full of Transformers, and they made it impossible. They were completely crass, and they were saying things that no regular straight person could get away with. But that, of course, is a different story. The Democratic-run city is in full-blown crisis mode. Nordstrom, Whole Foods, and dozens of other stores have closed, leaving San Francisco on the brink of economic catastrophe. London Breed, MPA 13, says, yes, she's the mayor of San Francisco. We have challenges like all major cities, and they love to do that too. No, it's not just us. Gavin Newsom did the same thing. Oh, yeah, other states are having trouble with their taxes because of the climate catastrophe or whatever, and it's a way for them to sort of, cast it. They're never going to take the blame, but it's not just us. Don't worry. It's happening everywhere. We have challenges like all major cities, but we have the investment, the excitement, and the energy to be an economic leader for California and the country. Dark. Do not California the rest of the country. We are the AI capital of the world. We're working on making the city clean, safe, and welcoming for everyone. No, well, that's just not true, right? It's probably getting a little bit better, but you couldn't walk around the streets of San Francisco 3 or 4 years ago with a red hat on. It didn't even have to say "Make America Great Again." It could just be a red hat, and that would trigger people. And there's clips floating around the internet for years now of people quite literally, and I always mention this story, but shout out Fog City Midge, literally cleaning up trash, and David Harris Jr. was with her, and I believe even Elijah Schaefer was there at one point. They're literally cleaning up trash. Scott Pressler was there, literally cleaning up and having junkies scream them down, right? Same thing with me. When I was pinched doing graffiti many years ago and trying to clean up an alleyway, I was screamed out of the alleyway while trying to clean it up by junkies who were treating it as their literal home. We are the AI capital of the world. We're working on making the city clean, safe, welcoming for everyone, and working with businesses to revitalize downtown. We're seeing tourism return to San Francisco, and our crime rates are hitting a 10-year low. And there's also a clip of London Breed saying, and Eric Adams does this too, New York is the safest big city in the world. And she says, crime rates are down, except for the 2020 and 2021 when the pandemic hit. So it's like, well, you can't just omit 2 years out of a 10-year span and claim you're doing good work. Meanwhile, John Kuglin, director of the MS in Entrepreneurship and Innovation program in the School of Management, says the San Francisco Bay Area remains the #1 place in the world for venture capital investment. He cites the latest report. Well, it's because it's just a money laundering scheme for political scumbag elites and all that stuff. So yeah, the #1 place in the world for venture capitalism. He cites the latest report from Ernst & Young. Greater San Francisco saw $9.5 billion invested in the third quarter of 2023 compared to $3.5 billion in the greater Boston and $3 billion in greater New York. So yeah, they're better than Boston and New York. Okay, I mean, you guys are all absolutely awful, right? Kids, you're both just awful.
Kids, you're both just awful.
The technology, education, healthcare, and government sectors continue to hire, says Julia Hing, Director of Employer Relationships in the Career Center at USF. She says that Consilient Labs, the Environmental Protection Agency, Environmental Science Associates, JP Morgan Chase, KNow Research, and Peralta PBC are just some of the organizations that have hired new USF graduates within the past year. While many agree that San Francisco is recovering, it may take time. And there you go. That's the euphemism for them admitting that it may take time. Right? A year or two, 10 years, a dozen years. That's them tepidly admitting that it's pretty much over. And, I mean, basically agreeing with me that if they did everything right yesterday, it would still take a decade. It's greener today than it was 10 or 20 years ago, Riggs says. You can walk from Mount Sutro Open Space Reserve to Golden Gate Park and out to Ocean Beach and then to open space in the Presidio, a national park inside the city limits. But then also, if you go to Land's End and in the park, there's stories. Oh, they were reported by Fox News, so it's probably not true. But tourists come from all over, whatever, to just vacation, to go to conferences, and they get their cars broken into immediately. And there's signs all over the place. That's how they fix stuff. It's just, oh, don't leave valuables in the car. And it's like, I guess that's the way to do it. But everybody knows. Word is out, and now even one of the most expensive private universities in the city has to acknowledge it, even though it's probably against their best interest to even mention that it's all collapsing because they want people to go to the school. In just the last 3 years, San Francisco has become a lot more friendly to walkers and cyclists, Riggs says. During the pandemic, the city closed some streets to automotive traffic and created other slow streets on which pedestrians and cyclists had priority. Several of those slow streets are now permanent. Yeah, so obviously they're going to take the Rona overhaul and make it permanent and claim that it's for your benefit. And I will say, in their defense, San Francisco is a fairly walkable city. Not like New York City, because there's many more hills, but better than other places in the country where they don't even have sidewalks. The Great Highway is now closed to cars on weekends, so you can walk from Golden Gate Park all the way down to Lake Merced, and you can walk in the middle of the road, Riggs adds. San Francisco is a national treasure in that respect, just like Yosemite is a national treasure. Okay. When visitors look at San Francisco today, they're like, wow, this is great. What? Who said that? Right? You should quote them. You should tell us who said that, because it's absolutely not. Right? Maybe if you come from Venezuela, you come from a disgusting third world country and broke in here, you think San Francisco would be good, especially because all of these weirdos are completely blind. They're in their bubble. So they're even going to take the side of the criminal when they get robbed. How did you do that? I think today San Francisco is much more poetic, beautiful, and livable city than even Paris is. Okay, right? I mean, and I think Paris notoriously has their own set of problems, which one could make the argument, a more conspirial-minded person could make the argument that the demise of these cities come from up on high with a handful of people behind the curtain. Each time San Francisco stumbles, it uses innovation to recover, Riggs says. I remember walking in the Mission in 2001, and back then you could almost see tumbleweeds rolling down the street. San Francisco was in a death spiral. Pets.com had just crashed. And then along comes two little companies called Facebook and Google. And then all of a sudden, Twitter is in Fox Plaza near Market. And you have this resurgence of talent and money and ideas. And I could also say that Twitter has since left, right? And the left notoriously hates Elon Musk, even though he's not like a stone cold rock rib conservative. But he says true things sometimes, and that's enough to make him the enemy. Every city suffers during a poor economic cycle, and there they go again. It's not just us. Oh, it's a poor economic cycle. Okay, so you're going to blame that on Bo Jiden, right? It's a lose-lose no matter how you slice it. But what San Francisco does best is reinvent itself. Right now, downtown is turning into a place where people want to live, work, and play. Not just work. Along Montgomery Street near the Transamerica Pyramid around Jackson Square, we're slowly seeing more old buildings converted into a mixture of restaurants, retail, residential, and offices. It's not just offices anymore. What? It's not just offices anymore, so people stick around instead of leaving at 5 o'clock. I don't think so. The mayor herself even said, I'm going to throw a party downtown to keep people down there and try to make the businesses stay so they get a little bit of a kickback.
San Francisco Mayor London Breed announced the legislation Friday. It would create the first designated public outdoor area with legal open container alcohol sales and consumption in California. She says it was partially inspired by First Thursdays.
The opportunity to do more fun in the streets of San Francisco by allowing a certain area and businesses within those areas and restaurants and bars and others to provide alcohol that you can basically sit out on the corner right in front of the restaurant and hang out with your friends and have a beer.
But it's all collapsing. And this does kind of come off as a sales email. I don't know why they sent it to me. I'm an alumni. I went there many years ago. It was different then, and it's even, it was, maybe it was worse way back in the day. And then it got, I guess, decent, or maybe I was too young to tell it was awful. But either way, I think it's more awful now than when I was a student at USF. San Francisco and the University of San Francisco have a symbiotic relationship, says Paul J. Fitzgerald, SJ, president of USF. Like most Jesuit universities around the world, USF was founded in a city in 1855 on a cow path that would become Market Street to educate future leaders of the city. What's the opposite of a doom loop, says Father Fitzgerald? An ascending spiral, a new horizon. That's what we're in right now. San Francisco isn't dying, it's changing. And yeah, you can use all the euphemisms you want. I'm sure you get your talking points and these. I mean, they're obviously not going to bash San Francisco that hard because they want people to show up and pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to go to this university. But this does show that they know, right? And they have to be a little bit truthful about it because otherwise it's going to come off as completely dishonest.